Hey guys, this is Eric with Painting Business Pro, and in this video, I want to share with you how I estimate paint jobs and how I have taught hundreds and hundreds, maybe thousands of people to estimate paint jobs. It's worked really well for me, worked really well for them, and it keeps things pretty simple. So the purpose of this video is to walk you through the estimating process, like fundamentally how we estimate. We're not gonna get into actually how to estimate an interior or exterior. It's gonna be the real principles behind how to estimate a project. So if you're looking for how to estimate an interior paint job, you can click somewhere on the screen where we've got that video. And if you're interested in how to estimate an exterior project, you can click somewhere on the screen to see the exterior estimating video. In this video, we're gonna get into the fundamental principles for how you come up with your estimate, including a few different things. First, we're gonna go through the purpose and intention of estimating and getting your price, which is really important, and a lot of people are messing this up. The second thing we're gonna go through is the variables that go into your estimate or your price. Third, we're gonna look at the estimating equation. Fourth, we're gonna look at how to adjust or tweak your estimates based on your market and learning and feedback. And at the end, I'm gonna have some resources for you to help you get your estimating dialed in if this video is helpful to you. So let's jump right into what is the intention or the purpose of estimating. And it's really simple. The goal of your estimating process is to get an accurate price consistently every single time so that your prices are consistent, your profit is consistent, what you pay your team is consistent, and ultimately, if you're building a team, you're able to train other people to get the same accurate and consistent prices. And the price we're trying to come up with is a price that meets two really important conditions. The first is I need to come up with a price that allows me to hit the profit margins I need to run a healthy business. All right, so there's a certain price you need to charge to be able to afford all of your expenses and take home a profit that's paying you what you're worth. All right, so there's a certain number we need to be at, and typically what I teach people and what we focus on is that we wanna be at least 50% gross profit. What that means is that 50% of the total price is what is going to go to labor and material costs, and the remaining 50% is for all the other expenses running a business, including marketing and overhead and paying sales and estimators and project managers and office managers and on with all the overhead while still maintaining a healthy profit margin. Now that 50% could be a little higher or a little lower depending on the stage a company is in. As companies grow, they have more overhead, so they need to have a little bit higher gross profit margin to cover that. So what we're looking for with estimating a price is we're hitting our margin, and we can do that while affording to pay some of the best labor in the market. All right, I want to be able to attract the best painters or the best subcontractors to work for me. And so I could charge a lower price and still keep my margin, but it means I would have to pay less money and get not as talented labor. So I want to make sure that those two conditions are met with my price. With me? What your price is not for is winning the job. All right, we're not estimating and coming up with a price that the customer will say yes to. That's not the purpose of your price. And I see a lot of people run into this issue where I'm lowering my price to win the project, but now I either can't afford good labor or my profit margin is so thin that I'm not able to grow and scale my business, or I'm not making enough money, and I start to get beat up on my price. So if I start to get in this slippery slope of using my price to win the job, what's gonna happen over time is I'm gonna slowly eat away at my profit margin, my ability to grow a business and actually hire a team and actually create freedom for myself, which is the whole point of building a business. So I don't come up with a price to win a job. That's the job of my sales process and my marketing systems and my word of mouth and repeat business and my reputation. And then when it comes to winning projects, I'm gonna focus on my sales process. Got it? All right, so now let's talk about the 4 variables that go into my price. Number 1 is production rates. Production rates are how long something takes to paint and how much material is required to paint it. So for any exterior project, there's all the different things that we're gonna paint on the job. There's the garage trim, the door trim, vertical trim, fascia, eaves, downspouts, doors, siding, stucco, railings, and on and on. And every single one of these different surfaces that we're going to be painting has a different production rate. What that means is, how long does it take to paint 10 feet of this? How long does it take to paint a door trim? How long does it take to paint a garage trim that's 1-car garage, 2-car garage? How long does it take to paint shutters that are hung on the house that I can't take down? So we've got all the things that we need to paint, and interiors the same way, and they're all assigned a production rate, how long it takes to paint them. So that's the first thing, and we'll also tie into that your material rate. So how much material do I need to cover 200 square feet of siding or 1,200 square feet of siding? So that's production rates, number one. Number two is my labor rate. My labor rate is what I estimate to pay per hour. It's not what I actually pay per hour, because everybody paints at a different speed. Good painters are gonna paint faster, bad painters are gonna paint slower. So my labor rate is the rate I'm estimating, not what I'm actually paying, because some people will paint faster. The third thing is my material rate. That means what's my cost per gallon for the materials I'm using. And then the fourth is my markup. So those are the four variables that we use in our equation to come up with our price. So next, let's just look at the estimating equation. So the first thing that we do is we take all of our measurements. So we know, hey, I've got this many feet of fascia, I've got this many doors, I've got a 2-car garage, I've got this many shutters on the house, I've got 25 feet of railings, and so on. So I've measured the house, and based on my production rates, it will tell me how many hours are required and how much material is required. Okay, so we already have that information, and at the end we'll talk about how do you get these production rates. There's a bunch of resources out there where you can get them. How we come up with our labor cost first is we say, how many hours is the job gonna take times my labor rate? Your labor rate might be $20 an hour. That doesn't mean you pay $20 an hour. That means you're bidding for $20 an hour. And in my experience, the production rates we have, good painters can do it about 60% faster. So if we're bidding for 20 an hour, our good painters are making $30, maybe even $35 an hour because they're really fast and efficient. So we take our hours, multiply by our labor rate, and that gives us our labor cost. So let's say it's a 50-hour job and we're bidding for $20 an hour. We have $1,000 in labor cost. Then we're gonna look at our material cost. We take our estimated materials based on our production rates. Let's say it's 25 gallons. And let's say our cost per gallon is $30. That's 25 times 30 is $750 for our material cost. Now we're gonna add both of those up. That's going to be $1,000 plus $750 is $1,750 for our labor and material cost. Then you take your $1,750 and you multiply by your markup. Your markup should be double or maybe a little more than that. So I take $1,750 times 2, $3,500. That could be my price on the low end. My price could be all the way up to about $4,000. If it's at $4,000 and I already know my labor and material costs are $1,750, I've got a little bit of wiggle room for maybe some management costs or maybe a little bit of money for the subcontractor if I'm using subcontractors for them to earn some profit, or some other miscellaneous expenses that maybe I didn't include in my bid, whether it's sundries or repairing some equipment or buying new spray tips or things like that. So that's the estimating equation. Now we want to look at, once we have the price, now how are we going to adjust and tweak our estimating over time? So the way that I've done this in my companies, the way I teach my new partners, the way we teach our Painting Business Pro members, is that there's two main goals in estimating. And the first goal is to just have a consistent, accurate way to get your pricing. All that's needed for that is you need this estimating equation and you need production rates. So again, we'll talk about that at the end. But the first goal is that I have a process I'm following where all I do is I get my measurements and the price gets spit out at the end. Now I've got consistent pricing. And then goal number 2 is to adjust and tweak that pricing until it's fulfilling the two purposes of estimating. And I'll remind you, the first one is I'm hitting my gross profit margin for current and future growth and profitability, which is around 50% gross profit. And number 2, I'm able to hire top talent from the labor pool and keep them. That's necessary for building a healthy company, for delivering an amazing service to customers, and for not being a professional babysitter who needs to micromanage every single job site. So how do we tweak and adjust our prices to get there? Well, it's really simple. I bid my jobs consistently and accurately, and then I start producing my jobs. I recruit talented painters or subcontractors and I observe them, I make sure that they're painting efficiently. If they're painting efficiently and I'm making 50% gross profit and they're happy, I'm good. If they're painting efficiently and they're happy, but I'm only making 40% gross profit, I might need to raise my prices a little bit. So I just now slow down and I start to use the feedback loop to say, hey, can I get good painters at these prices or subcontractors at these prices? And am I hitting my margins? And if I'm hitting those, I'm good. And if I'm not, I need to adjust. And there's typically two main adjustments that need to be made. Number one would be adjusting the labor rate you're charging. So you take $20 an hour, maybe you bump it up to $22 if you need to raise your prices generally. That's what you would need to do if all of your jobs aren't quite as profitable as you'd like them to be. You just change the labor rate a little bit and see if that fixes it. And over time, you make these little tweaks and adjustments until you're hitting your margins and keeping your top talent happy. The other way you could need to adjust your prices is if it's some jobs aren't as profitable as they need to be. And then you can start to look and see what's the commonality on these jobs. Wow, every time we have jobs that have a bunch of shutters, I seem to be a little less profitable. So I'm gonna go in and I'm just gonna change my production rates on shutters so that we're bidding a little bit more time when we do a bunch of shutters. Or whatever the other common theme is when you're not as profitable as you need to be, you go adjust those production rates specifically so that you're only adjusting the price on those jobs. Now you start to do this over time, and this is how you slowly get your prices dialed in any given market. All right, so now let's end with what resources are available to you so that you don't have to come up with this from scratch. All right, it's a ton of work to create your production rates, and you don't have to do it. So there's three main resources that I'm gonna suggest to you that are available. The first is we have some pretty basic, but still useful estimating guides at Painting Business Pro that are free. And all these links will be in the description below this video. You can click on free estimating guide. You can enter your email. We'll send it over to you. It's totally free. We'll send you some other emails after that to help you with your painting company if you'd like help with it. And if you don't, you can just unsubscribe and take your free guides, and hopefully they're helpful to you. The second resource we have is at Painting Business Pro. We have really detailed estimating spreadsheets that hundreds of hours have gone into building for interior, exterior, and commercial that have all the production rates already baked in with suggested markups, suggested labor rates, suggested material rates, and so on. Plus, we've got training videos on how to use all these spreadsheets, how to adjust them, how to tweak them, how to make them your own, so that it will really be everything you need for estimating if you'd like. And we sell those on our site, and it's a one-time fee, and it will get you everything you need for estimating. The third option you have is there's companies out there. The two most prevalent ones in the painting industry is Estimate Rocket and Paint Scout, and they have estimating softwares, which you pay a monthly fee depending on different packages they have, and there's some other bells and whistles that they offer as well. So you could check those out also, and I would highly recommend using one of these resources to get yourself in a position where you're consistently and accurately estimating your paint jobs. And then if you want to get into an introduction to interior estimating or exterior estimating, we'll include those videos somewhere on the screen here, and you can go and check those out. All the resources I just went through are listed in the description of this video. So I hope this is helpful to you in building your painting company and learning how to estimate and really understanding it. And just remember, the job of estimating is not to lower my price to win the job. That's what great sales is for. And great sales is not about being a salesperson. It's about being honest and great with people. I've got a ton of videos on that. If you want to get into sales, just check out the channel. So hopefully we'll talk to you soon, and hopefully this is helpful for you.